Okay, we'll call our
I
March.
want this is at the same time.
We'll call our March meeting 2020 to order. I'd like to welcome all of my fellow councillors. Councillor Campbell is online on the phone, participating in our council meeting, and we have our director, Deputy CAO Gordon McFarlane, and Director of Human Resources with us, and we have our CAO Rob Philpott, and around the corner we have our Director of Finance, Kristen, and we have Brian Harlick here on the controls. So we'll continue on. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Duran and seconded by Councillor McDougall. All in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary nay. Motion carried. We'd like to welcome as well, I understand the Journal Pioneer Colin McLean will be viewing our council meeting on YouTube, and members of the CBC. Also, we want to say welcome to the viewing audience on YouTube, and we'll continue on with the agenda. We have we don't have anybody with us tonight from the public. That was a decision that was made. So we'll continue on. Any conflicts of interest? Continue on with item number 1. I do not see any speakers' lights on. Or maybe there was there? Oh, no lights on? Okay. Sometimes the mics are hidden behind the screens. Okay, we have the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the monthly council meeting, February 18, 2020, and approval of the special council meeting minutes of February 27, 2020, and March 9, 2020, and the budget speech of March 2, 2020? Moved. Sorry, you got two movers, and moved by Bruce and seconded by Councillor or Deputy Mayor McCollman. All in favour? Contrary nay? Carried. Correspondence. I didn't bring in my correspondence file. I'll catch up next meeting on that. There's a lot of meetings and appointments and those kinds of things. So rather than take up too much time tonight, we'll do it at the next meeting. We'll start off with the financial services with the chair, Deputy Mayor Deputy Mayor Norma McCollman. You have a report, and the floor is yours, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to bring the financial report, which was prepared by Interim Director Kristen Dunsford. I'd like to say good evening to all of my colleagues and Councillor Campbell on phone, as well as the residents of City of Summerside. My report tonight consists of a recap of the 2020-21 budget and an update on our preliminary financial results as we close in on the end of 2019-2020 fiscal year. As well, this evening, Your Worship and members of Council, I will be bringing some resolutions. The City delivered its 2020-21 budget to the public on March 2nd, 2020, and Council will be voting on this tonight, as I mentioned. Some highlights from this budget are $53.1 million budget made up of $23.8 million for the general fund and $29.2 million for utilities. A capital budget totaling $22.6 million, with $10 million going towards infrastructure to the new Eco Business Park. Balanced budget with a small surplus of $9,340, $3,719 for the general fund, and $5,621 for the utilities. There's no change in property tax rates. There's no change in the electricity rates. A small adjustment in water and sewer rates of 1%, which it equals 61 cents per month for residential customers. We have heard from the residents that economic development, debt management, and infrastructure renewal continue to be major priorities to them. And we need to focus on sustainability while building for our future. We believe the initiative presented in this budget allows us to do both. Now I will turn to our current fiscal year. Although we have been showing a shortfall in our operating results on a year-to-year date basis, we are projecting a small surplus of $5,104 for the fiscal year 2019-2020. One of the main reasons for the shortfall related to costs incurred related to the cleanup and restoration following post-tropical storm Dorian. We expect to recover some or most of these costs over the course of time from the insurance claims and through the PEI Disaster Financial Assistance Program. Higher than anticipated capital expenditures, which were approved subsequent to 2019-2020 budget, and lower levels of wind from our turbines made up most of the balance of our shortfall. We have been able to offset these additional costs and lower than expected revenue without adding to our long-term debt. And that concludes the most part of my report. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this report, and either myself or Chief Financial Officer are available to take any questions. And I'll just point to members of council. In your packet you have a summary of the revenue and expenses, and if any of you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And that concludes the report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McColman. Any questions for the Chair of Finance on her report? I do not see any question lights. The floor is still yours.
And Your Worship, I believe our CAO has a few comments to make.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and good evening, members of Council. This was an item that was discussed at Finance Committee last week, and we wanted to seek Council's feedback on it. And it concerns the way that our tender process is set up, particularly for some of our infrastructure projects related to water and sewer, ditch and fill, and that sort of thing. We're looking at a way to try to get these tenders awarded a little bit sooner than otherwise would be the case, and to get contractors and various projects rolling. On your screen is a calendar that outlines the next 6 weeks in terms of what tenders are going to be advertised, when they expect to close, when we would expect to get them to council in terms of a committee meeting for a recommendation, and then on April 20th, where many of these tenders would then come forward for final approval. As you know, there was there was a policy that was adopted by resolution by the former council, whereby if there were any tenders that there were no issues in terms of either the vendor or the lowest price or anything along those lines, normally a recommendation would be made from staff to the CAO. The CAO would approve it, and then the CAO would just notify council that we're moving forward with this particular tender, rather than having to wait another 3 to 4 weeks for that tender to come forward to council. What we're asking for council to consider is if for these types of tenders, just the ones that are outlined on your screen, if there would be any consideration to maybe following that process for these types of tenders. A couple of reasons. Obviously, it allows us to get the tenders out the door, awarded a lot sooner, and they can start planning and construction a lot sooner. It allows for vendors who have submitted bid deposits to be able to get their bid deposits back a little sooner if by some chance they're either successful or not successful in the bid process. And also from a staff efficiency point of view, it cuts down on the amount of, administrative red tape that staff and council has to be dealing with on a regular basis for some of these tenders. So what we propose, as an example, if you look on March 17th, where the water project tender would be advertised, we would allow 2 weeks for it to be open. It would close on March 31st. A recommendation would have to come forward at April 7th, Committee of Council, and even if the recommendation is adopted then, it would not be formally approved until Monday, April 20th. So you're looking at a 6-week period from the time that the tender is advertised to the time it could be potentially awarded. What we propose as an example is that if council was okay with it, with the water tender, when it closes on Tuesday, March 31st, staff would evaluate it and make a recommendation to the CAO within a day or 2 days. If there are no irregularities with the tender, I would simply then make a recommendation to council to say, there's no issues with this, we would like to go ahead and move forward with it, as opposed to having to wait the 3 or 4 weeks. If there are issues with a particular tender, when staff are reviewing the tenders, we will certainly bring it back to council for a formal meeting and discussion. Okay?
That may just be the issue of staff, though.
Pardon me?
That may just be if staff members have an issue, but I'm just going to give you my own personal feeling on that. I believe that these tenders, and if we have to call a special meeting at noon, not so make sure we don't hold up things, that the council should know the information on the tenders. So I agree with the way it was done last year. When it came back to council, there was some questions that had to be answered, and if it would have gone the other way, council wouldn't have known anything about it. So I personally believe that these kinds of things should go back to council, and it can be done in a way that you're not holding up any production. If we have to call a special meeting at noon to process it, we can.
Hello? Hello? Okay. Okay, we're still here. Thank you.
So I would strongly suggest that for council members who have questions, we have a few technical problems here with our phone call in, but we can process it.
Yeah,
In
we'll
the
get
process
back
of getting it
I'll
fixed?
we'll get
Okay.
back to it.
Thank you. But if any questions, I think they should come to council because we're talking big-time business, but it can be done without holding up exactly what you just said. Go ahead, do I see any, Councilman Dogan?
Yeah, the process that was explained, I don't have a big problem with it, but I do have one, and it's where it comes back to the CAO, and if the CAO says it's okay, I would like to see the CAO and the mayor review that, and if the mayor believes that there's an issue, then it can be brought to council. But I think the CAO and the mayor, I wouldn't want to see just the CAO do it and then that cuts out council completely. I think if the mayor looks at it, he sees there's an issue, then we put the brake lights on and bring it back to all of council. Is that fair?
I would add one to that. I think the
Okay.
chair of whatever department it is
Okay.
should be part of it too, just to keep council in the know.
Okay.
I don't
And
like to
that's
see
fair.
things taken away from council.
At least that'll speed things up, so, in most cases. If everybody's okay with that?
Yeah, I just have, I appreciate last year something happening and it being recognized by the CAO and being brought to us. And so that worked as well, right? They didn't let it slip through until council had a say. So I like that happened. I would like to see that continue to happen, but I also don't mind the idea of the mayor, sitting in and with CAO and kind of get you off the hook, and you know what I mean. If both parties are involved, I think that might work. If mayor doesn't mind sitting in on those meetings,
I think the chair should be, but last
and
year
the chair as well.
it wasn't quite like that, Councillor Ramsey. I think we got wind of it after it was starting to be processed, and then that's when we called some questions on it and got a good discussion on it here.
And there is a,
Give any further, if not, Corey's got his light on. But
Yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Sorry, Corey.
No.
Councillor Snow.
Yeah, it's all good. I would agree that I like the idea of having the mayor and the chair involved. That's I can speak for myself personally. I like to be in the know in the know of as much stuff as possible, because as we're questioned and especially being chair of a department, you want to know as much of the going-ons that you can. So I think that's a good point, and if we have to, call a lunchtime meeting, whatever, to get things processed. I like the idea of getting it processed as quick as possible, but having as many eyes on it as possible is also good. So.
Thank you. We have two lights here. I'm not sure which one came on first. Deputy Mayor.
I guess I just want to point out too, just to clarify, that the format last year was the former council that voted on doing that, and I believe that senior management were just following that process. But I like the idea if mayor and the chair of the committee can be a part of that, and maybe with the CAO, and then just bring a little bit of a profile back to council so that we have a bit of a thumbnail sketch of the tender if we're asked any questions.
I think the recommendation would be, based on what I'm hearing, is that if the CAO, the mayor, and the relevant committee chair were to have a quick eye, not a quick eye, but if they were to review the recommendation from staff, what we would come back to council is the mayor, the committee chair, and the CAO reviewed this today. We are okay with it, and make council aware of the particulars, right?
And if any of the councillors come back and wanted questions on it, that opportunity would be there as well.
And one thing I just forgot to mention too, I believe those that have their amounts in the tender price when they put in, when they submit their tender, to get that money released earlier would help them as small business owners. And also, I think some of the things that we've heard both from staff and the business community is that when those tenders start, sometimes they're on a very limited season, so this might help speed it up.
Thank you. Councillor McPheely.
Well, I guess just really to reiterate what others have said, I think the policy when it was changed, I think it worked really, really well. I don't think there was ever any issues with it. And I think it did work last year because when there was a problem, it didn't get to council. But having said that, though, I don't see any downside of having another check in the system where the mayor and the chairperson has a peek at it. And 95%, 98% will probably never be an issue, but there's always that couple. So thank you.
Councillor Drawn.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to basically reiterate what everyone else says, at the risk of being redundant, I think it's a good idea to have the mayor and a chair on behalf of council to do it as well. And I really like how you streamlined the timeline here, and I think the contractors would certainly appreciate that too. So I think we got a really good balance after this brief conversation of how the tendering process is going to go. And yeah, just want to, I guess, agree with pretty much everything that everyone said thus far.
Could I just add to that before, then I'll go back to you, Mr. CAO. It should be set up like the mayor or designate. If anything happens, I'm away or can't be at the meeting, the deputy, and the same with the chair, whomever the chair is, if the chair's co-chair could represent.
Yep. And to that point, Your Worship, we were only proposing this modification to the process just for these tenders, which are more time sensitive, I guess, in terms of trying to get them out on the street. Otherwise, we'll follow our regular process for everything else.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. CAO. Deputy Mayor, you still have the floor.
Yes, I do have some resolutions to bring, Your Worship. Okay.
You're with us, Councillor Campbell? Yes. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, members of council, I would like to bring resolution COS 20024. It was moved by myself, Councillor McColman, seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Whereas the Infrastructure Secretariat with the province of PEI requires a council resolution to allot direct allocation gas tax funds, and whereas the city of Summerside can request that these funds be transferred to a different project. Be it resolved that council approves the request to transfer the direct allocation gas tax funds for 2020-2021 as follows. From Central Street Pope Road Design, $1,356,490, to paving, $590,000, storm sewer, $250,000, sidewalks, $216,490, intersection of Greenwood Drive, Pope Road, $200,000, and finally the intersection of Granville Street and Walker Avenue, $100,000.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McColman and seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Any questions on the resolution? All in favor say, oh sorry, question from Councillor Drawn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just the one, just for clarification for the public. How does, I guess, transferring that 1.3 million from Central Street Pope Road into the other projects, how does that affect, I guess, the overall timeline of that project itself? Because I know to look at this, it almost makes it look like Central Street and Pope Road is off the table, and instead we're doing these. I know that's not the case, but maybe could we get an explanation just of why it appears that way?
Thank you, Councillor Drawn. We'll have an answer for you here shortly.
We're able to transfer funds from project to project as long as we submit applications for approval before the work starts.
Right. So there's still, Central Street, Pope Road is still on the table,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Drawn. You ready for the vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried. Could you copy that, Councillor Campbell? Okay, thank you. Okay, you have the floor again,
Okay,
Deputy
thank you.
Mayor.
Resolution COS 20-025, moved by myself, Deputy Mayor McColman, and seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Whereas the province of PEI, through the PEI Infrastructure Secretariat, has advised that the gas tax municipal strategic component program is open for applications until March 20th, 2020. Be it resolved that Council endorses the City's application for funding under the gas tax municipal strategic component program be submitted as follows. Reed's Corner lift station replacement, Duke Street storm sewer, and the boardwalk revitalization.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McColman and seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Any questions on the resolution? All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Carried.
Thank you. Resolution COS 20-026, moved by myself, Deputy Mayor McColman, and seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Be it resolved that the 2020-2021 water and sewer rates be approved as presented on page 6 of the budget.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McColman and seconded by Councillor McFeely. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay. Carried.
Thank you. Resolution COS 20-027, moved by myself, Deputy Mayor McColman, seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Be it resolved that the 2020-2021 municipal tax rates for the City of Summerside be approved as presented on page 3 of the budget document.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McColman and seconded by Councillor McFeely. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Thank you. Resolution COS 20-028, moved by myself, Deputy Mayor McColman, seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Be it resolved that the incremental 2020-2021 Business Improvement Area, BIA, tax rate be approved at 18 cents per $100 of total assessment, commercial and non-commercial, excluding residential assessments. This BIA tax levy includes all properties within the boundaries of the downtown Summerside Business Improvement Area.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McColman and seconded by Councillor McFeely. This, I'm not sure if it was mentioned in the resolution. I don't think it was, but there's no increase. It's been the same for years. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried.
Thank you. Two more resolutions. Resolution COS 2029, moved by myself, Deputy Mayor McColman, seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Be it resolved that the 2020-2021 operating and capital budgets for the City of Summerside be approved as presented.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McColman and seconded by Councillor McFeely. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay. Carried.
Thank you. And final resolution, COS 20-030, moved by myself, Deputy Mayor Norma McColman, and seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Whereas the Elm Street Elementary School Playground Committee is fundraising to replace playground equipment located at Elm Street School that has been deemed unsafe and to be removed immediately. And whereas this committee has asked the city for support in reaching their goal of $100,000 and that the city has supported other Summerside School playground committees in the past. Be it resolved that council approves a donation of $5,000 to be funded from the Parkland Dedication Fund.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McColman and seconded by Councillor Brian McFeely. Any questions? Councillor Snow.
Just, I guess a statement. I didn't see this on the agenda prior to coming here. I don't know how I missed it, to be quite honest. But seeing as I was former chair of this committee, I'm going to abstain from voting on it.
Thank you, Councillor Snow. That will be duly recorded. Any questions on the resolution? Deputy or Councillor
Not really a question, and I fully support it. I'm just, I didn't know anything about it, and I'm not sure where it came from or how it got here. Did it go through a committee meeting that?
Yes.
So it was Finance Committee, was it?
Finance Committee, and it had been a letter that was sent before any of the budgets.
Yeah.
And it's not a grant, but what I will do is turn it over to our CAO.
Okay.
Or director.
Yes, Councillor McDougall. I guess just before the budget process or around the time that the budget process had commenced, we did receive a request from the Elm Street Playground Committee.
Right.
We had resolved through discussion between the Finance Committee and the Deputy Mayor, i.e. Finance Chair, that we would address this after the budget process was complete. And we had a discussion last Thursday at our meeting with Finance Committee, and it was resolved that the committee did support this this request.
Okay, and I fully support it, and I fully support where it's coming from, out of the Parkland Dedication, and that's a great use for it. It's just, I guess, what I was, these things normally come back to an open session committee, where the Finance Committee is not held in the open. That was just my concern, but I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick point of order.
Go ahead.
Your Worship, and I think the new municipal act, by refraining from voting, you're recorded as a yes vote. So you really need to declare a conflict of interest, I think, so the vote's not.
Right.
Yeah.
I will declare conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Snow. That's duly recorded. Okay, I believe all in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary nay? Carried. Do you have anything further? Yeah. No, that's all good. Okay, thank you for now, and we'll move on with Tech Services. Councillor Duran, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Report.
Good evening to everyone here and online. I'll get right into it for Tech Services for this March 2020 Tech Services report. The 2020 construction season is almost upon us. Staff are in the process of preparing tenders for the 2020 capital projects. This work will continue over the next month. The first round of tenders will be going out for bids this week, and they include water, sewer, and the second phase of the Eco Park. Tenders will continue being released for bids in March, and it will continue for the month of April in order to be ready for May construction. Staff continues to review and assist the public with pending developments and building permits to be issued for this year. A number of building permits were issued for the month of February. They mainly had to deal with interior renovations to various buildings. We also have another new multi-unit building on Simmons Avenue off of McEwen Road, getting a permit for another 4-unit building with the construction to start very soon. Work also is continuing on the 70-unit building downtown with the interior partitions and fit-up of the building. Several developers are stopping in and speaking to staff for assistance with their proposed projects for 2020. Staff will continue to work with these developers to bring these developments to the permit stage. Citizens are also encouraged to ask for assistance with their projects that they may have planned for 2020. And that concludes the report for Tech Services for March 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. Any questions for the Chair of Tech Services? I do not see any question lights on. Do you have anything further at this time?
I do not, Your Worship. That's everything for now from me. Thank
Okay.
you.
If there's anything further you think of, the floor will be yours. We'll move on here. Okay, we'll continue on. I believe Councillor Brian McFeely, the Chair of Planning Board, and you have a number of resolutions, So the floor is yours, sir.
I have several, Your Worship, so we'll get right at it. Resolution COS 20-018, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from PEI Ocean View Resort Inc., Sishong Lu, for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 309344 from single-family residential R1 zone to medium-density residential R3 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 026, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read the first time at the council meeting held on February 27, 2023. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable: conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, roads, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parklands for accommodating the development and projected infrastructure requirements, impact from the development on pedestrian and vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources, impacts on city finances and budgets, other matters as specified in this bylaw, other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 026, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby declared as read a second time. And this bears the recommendation of Planning Board meeting on March 3rd, Your Worship. And I'll read into the record Schedule B. The zoning amendment 026, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 and Section 19 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988, Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning for a portion of PID number 309344 shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw is designated as medium density residential R3 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of single family residential R1. And we would table the accompanying map with that as well, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor McFeely. Okay, it was moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. You have all heard the resolution. Any questions on the resolution? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary nay. Carried.
Second resolution, Your Worship, resolution COS 20-019, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from PEI Ocean View Resort Inc., Zizlong Hong Lu, for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 309344 from single-family residential R1 zone to medium-density residential R3 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 026, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at two separate meetings of the council held on different days. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 026, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted.
Yep, moved by Councillor Brian McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions on the resolution? All in favor say aye. Contrary nay. Carried. You're batting 1,000 so far.
We're doing well. We'll keep moving. Resolution COS 20-020, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Whereas an application was received by PEI Ocean View Resort Inc., Zizhong Lu, for a discretionary use of a portion of PID number 309344 to allow a row house -8 units at 373 Duke Street in the medium-density residential R3 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be it resolved that the council approve a discretionary use for a row house, 8 units at 373 Duke Street for a portion of PID number 309344 in the medium-density residential R3 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And, Your Worship, this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting March 3rd.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions on the resolution? All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary nay. Carried.
Continuing on.
Just before, are you still with us, Councillor Campbell? Yes. Okay, I was just wondering if you could hear it. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor McFeely.
And continuing on, Your Worship, resolution number COS 20-021, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, seconded by Councillor Adams. Whereas Cool Breeze Farms, the Mama's Kitchen, is requesting council approval in accordance with section 13 in the licensing bylaw SS-05 to operate a mobile sales establishment at 225 Reed Drive, PID number 406439. Whereas section 13 of the licensing bylaw provides that the council shall allow or refuse an application based on the following considerations: safety, desirability, impact on established businesses in the city, public convenience, and such other considerations as it deems appropriate. Be it resolved, the council grant approval to Cool Breeze Farms to operate a mobile sales establishment at 225 Reed Drive, PID number 406439, the license subject to paying a license fee of $500 for a non-local business as per licensing bylaw SS-05 regulations. Special events require written approval of the event organizer, submitted to the city 3 days in advance. A food health permit is approved by the province. Litter disposal containers are provided on site. Hours of operation, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And letters if applicable of permission from property owners. And Your Worship, this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting March 3rd, 2020.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Adams. Are the dates and times on that, or is that just for the year?
It's an annual application, Your Worship.
Right. Any questions on the resolution? All in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary nay. Carried.
Moving along, Your Worship. Resolution COS 20-022. Whereas Colin McKinnon, it's moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, and seconded by Councillor Adams. Whereas Colin McKinnon is requesting council approval in accordance with section 13 of the licensing bylaw SS-05 to operate a mobile sales establishment at Heather Moist Drive, Summerside Port-owned property. And whereas section 13 of the licensing bylaw provides the council shall allow or refuse an application based on the following considerations: safety, desirability, impact on established businesses in the city, be it resolved, the council grant approval to Colin McKinnon to operate a mobile sales establishment at Heather Moist Drive, Summerside Port-owned property. The license is subject to paying a license fee of $500 for a non-local business as per licensing bylaw SS-05 regulations. Special events require written approval of the event organizers, submitted to the city 3 days in advance. A food health permit is approved by the province. Litter disposal containers are provided on site. Hours of operation are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Letters of permission from the property owner and connection of any pipe, hose, etc. to city system requires city approval. And Your Worship, this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting of March 3rd, 2020.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by, was it Councillor Adams?
Yes, it was, Your Worship.
You all heard the resolution. Any questions? All in favour say aye. Contrary nay. Carried.
And finally, Your Worship, Planning Board's been busy this last month, so, as well as the staff. So, Resolution COS 20-023, moved by myself, Councillor McFeely, and seconded by Councillor Adams. Whereas an application was received from David Duggan and Gregory Ellard for a discretionary use for PID number 310573 to allow an apartment building up to 4 units at 91 Central Street in the medium-density residential R3 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be resolved that the council approve a discretionary use for an apartment building, 4 units at 91 Central Street, PID number 310573 in medium-density residential R3 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And Your Worship, this bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting of March 12th, 2020.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Adams. Any questions on the resolution? All in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary nay. Carried. Okay, we're moving right along here. Well, with that, you're back on the floor, sir, with the Economic Development Report. Councillor McFeely.
Very briefly, Your Worship, and we apologize for that not being included in the meeting package, but we do have a report from the office, from the staff, and pleased to highlight that report briefly here. Last week, the office hosted an investment delegation from the UK, which was represented by 3 companies looking to invest, looking for locations to invest in North America. One company was a returnee, and 2, this was their first visit. And Your Worship, you and I had the opportunity to spend some time with those 3 companies, and there's certainly some significant potential there. And certainly one of the companies we've talked about before, Connective Touch, are up and operating in Summerside. They've hired in Summerside. They were here interviewing again last week. They're opening their office, and they have several leads that they're working on, and really beginning to establish Summerside as their North American base and kind of move out from here. So it's very positive, and obviously as a result of significant effort by the Economic Development Office over a number of years. We're also due to, it will be cancelled now given the circumstances, but we're expecting a team from Hungary and another team in from the UK later this month as well, but those will not be happening. Will be happening at later dates, and there's lots of interest there. Also, the office hosted the Canadian Trade Commissioners here for a visit to Summerside, and to see what the opportunities are in Summerside for companies from around the world that want to get a foothold in North America and use Summerside to sort of be the springboard for that. And the office has worked very hard over the past several years building these relationships, and we're really pleased that some of those are coming home to roost. And I guess from turning to the development work, Councillor Durham mentioned the tender calls for phase 2 of the infrastructure, infrastructure at the Echo Park. Those will be going out this month. There's a lot of interest in the Echo Park. In the process of finalizing several letters of intent to lease space within that Echo Park, so there's some good things happening there and a lot of interest there. So Your Worship, there's lots of stuff going behind the scenes, and as you know, in that business, you kind of need to keep that stuff behind the scenes till developers and interested parties are prepared to move forward and become public. There's some good work being done by the office, and I think we're on the right track with our investments and commitment to grow Summerside, and the office is committed to doing that and continues to work forward with that.
Thank you, Councillor McFeely, for your report. And yes, I certainly agree with you there. And today there were more people in meeting with the economic development staff wanting to start a new business in Summerside. So it's great to see that, and we commend Mike DeSuska and his assistant, Mr. Moore, for their work on that. Any questions for the Chair of Economic Development before we move on? I do not see any speaking lights on. Councillor Ramsey, you have a police report and a fire report and some other comments, I understand.
I do,
Floor
I
is
do.
yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, everyone, and good evening, all the viewers out there this evening. The first report I have is Summerside Police Services, and it was submitted by Chief Poirier. And so, in February, Constable Ashley Davis was a guest panelist at the Violence Against Women Prevention Forum, Aboriginal Women's Association, which was held at the Delta in Charlottetown. The topic that Ashley spoke about was putting a face on justice, and she was asked questions about the barriers in the justice system she has faced. And she was also asked to make recommendations for improvement. Other topics included what can be done to begin supporting more women on the island. And the third topic was what are some suggestions, communications improvements between responders and service providers that can be made. Ashley was very well received by the group for her presentation. Some of the training services that took place for the month of February, several members requalified for first aid, CPR, and AED, defibrillator, and one member assisted with a lockdown drill at the Summerside Tax Center, and SBS, Summerside Police Services drug recognition experts attended update training in Charlottetown, annual review for Summerside Police Service files and members conducted by the Office of the Police Commissioner, and one member attended at the Senior Police Administration course in Ottawa for 3 weeks. Community policing activities, members participated in the Family Violence Walk. Members attended the Boys and Girls Club Pancake Breakfast for Pink Shirt Day. SRO did so that's our police officer at Three Oaks, did an internet safety talk for students grade 4 and 6 at Musqueam Consolidated School. He volunteered with the Bauer First Shift, which is hockey, and also for the weekend basketball at Three Oaks. Deputy Chief Walker attended a function with her honor at the EPTEC Center, Heritage Awards, and members volunteered for Atlantic University Sports Swimming Finals in Halifax. And the following is a list of some of the occurrence totals for February 2020. Calls for service were 437, traffic accidents were 33, reported crimes of assault and threats were 23, theft reports were 36, impaired driving offenses were 10, highway traffic offenses were 71 plus 11 warnings, break-in and reports, business and residential, were 6, and drug enforcement charges were 5. And that concludes the police report for February. If anyone has any questions. Not, I'll move right on to the report for the SRO, who's the officer at Three Oaks. And for February, this was submitted by Jason Black here, Summerside Police Services Sergeant. In February 2020, Constable Montgomery continued to provide services as a school resource officer at Tosh. Throughout the month, Constable Montgomery assisted students, staff, and families from Tosh, SIS, Elm Street School, and Musqueam Consolidated with presentations, as well as assisting with disciplinary behavior, family, and personal issues. There were 3 presentations given to grade 4, 5, and 6 students at Musqueam Consolidated School about online safety, and a tour of Tosh was provided to members of the Summerside Fire Department. Constable Montgomery also assisted with a lockdown drill and was on duty to deal with a recent threat made regarding someone bringing a gun into the school. Constable Montgomery is obviously having an impact with the students at Tosh, as he was approached to be interviewed by a student for a career explorations project, and was asked by another student to be a reference for them in relation to an armed forces application. Additionally, Constable Montgomery spearheaded an effort to create an annual $500 bursary for the Tosh student from QP 1174 who represents the members of the Summerside Police Services. The bursary has been approved, and applications provided Tosh to Tosh administration. And that's the report on our SRO. He seems to be doing well up there, and he's well received. Is there any questions on that? we're still waiting to hear back from the province regarding the $50,000 to help us with having Constable Montgomery up there. The last I heard was that it's from Mr. Trivers was that it was pretty much a go. As he said, it's not in your hand until it's in your hand, but he's pretty much assured us that he's really on the side of having Constable Montgomery there, and they are really interested in working him into the wellness teams. That's what they would like to see happen. That's what they're going to work towards, and he asked me to share that. But for this year, we're hoping that may not happen, so we're hoping to get the money.
Thank you. If I could just add to that, I did talk to Minister Trivers, I believe it was Friday. He was
Yes.
in Summerside here with one of his children at an event, and I met him, and he said that will happen. It's just taking a little bit of time to
Just
get
a
it
little bit of
processed. So we said, advise your councillors in the city that with a little bit of time, you'll have that in place.
Yes, yeah. He did call me on Friday as well, and he wanted to know exactly what the cost was for the officer. He said if it's 80, we'll give 40. If it's 90, we'll give 45. And I got a hold of Rob Philpott, and it's $99,574, I think, is the cost to keep.
You sure it's not 200?
What's that? Plus, yeah, and then you sent me another note later, Kristen. Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. So then he said, okay, that's what we know we have to give. So looks like they're on board. So if there's no more questions on that or conversation on that, I'm going to move right into the Summerside Fire Services. For their February report submitted by Ken Culleton. There were 25 calls for assistance during the month of February, and they are as follows. There was 6 medical first responder calls, and the firefighters are being very busy with the first responder calls. That's new to them, and thank you for that. I guess, Justin, you're part of that, aren't you, Councillor Duran? Yeah, thank you. And to everybody else involved. There were 2 structured fires, 4 alarm panel calls, 2 electrical fires, 1 motor vehicle fire, 2 miscellaneous calls, 3 false alarms, 3 dumpster fires, and 2 cancel calls. Firefighter training sessions total 26.5 hours for the month. And anyway, I could go over those, but they're 26.5 hours is what they spent in training. 5 of our members are finishing up in minor hockey first shift program. They had a great year working with the children. Interviews have completed, and congratulations are sent out to the successful new captains, Andrew Peters, Josh Cameron, and Kent Mose. Interviews have been completed, and congratulations are sent out to the successful new lieutenants, Jeff Bernard, our own Justin Duran. Congratulations, Justin. And Tyler DeRoche. Installation on all the new radio system is complete, and all components are working great with a very noticeable improvement. And Chief Enman met with police dispatchers to cover the new paging system. Summerside Fire Services has begun the process of recruiting for new volunteer members. So if there's anybody out there who would like to volunteer as a fire, not a fireman, for fire services, please get your application in. A big shout out to Councillor Bruce McDougall for donating some office furniture from the closed transcontinental offices. They wanted to thank you for that, Bruce. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. And firefighters are averaging 18 to 20 members on Wednesday night for fitness classes, an opportunity for great workout and some even greater team building. So I hope you're attending that, Justin. So that's the fire report, if there's any questions on that.
Not a question, Councillor Barr, but when you mentioned the congratulations on lieutenants, I just wanted to mention Tyler DeRoche is a former councillor, so that's good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, congratulations to everybody on that. Yeah, thank you.
Just one brief question, and maybe Councillor McDougall could sort of help answer this. You mentioned the medical first responder calls. That tends to be popping up as maybe a strain on our volunteer firefighters from time to time. I'm wondering what from the province support we're either looking at receiving possibly down the road, if there's anything through FCM or talks of, you know, as those calls get sort of pushed down the chain from our EMS to our volunteer firefighters. I know in some of the smaller communities it's very serious. They're seeing a lot and taking a lot of time.
There has been conversation with that through FBIM and also the FCM through the Atlantic, and we haven't received anything back on it yet, but there has been some conversation that take place.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to move right into our emergency measures operations, and as chair of emergency measures, I'd like to share this report with everyone watching this evening, and as well everyone here. It was submitted by our CAO, Rob Philpott, to me today, and so as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to evolve around the world and in our local community, the health and well-being of Summerside residents remains our top priority. All levels of government are monitoring the situation and have taken measures to ensure public health readiness at the federal, provincial, and municipal level. Here in Summerside, the city is following the guidance provided by the Provincial Chief Health Officer to monitor the situation and taking all necessary steps to be fully prepared for any appropriate responses. Enhanced cleaning and disinfecting procedures are in place for all open city facilities. In the meantime, some of the steps taken by the city to protect residents include the closure of Credit Union Place and community centers, as well as all cultural Summerside facilities. Residents are encouraged to delay any non-essential business with the city or to consider conducting business online or by phone where possible. All emergency services and essential municipal services will continue. These are challenging times for our community. We recognize that the pace at which decisions are changing is disruptive and disconcerting. And that these decisions may have significant impact on those we serve. We regret the disruption these changes will have. However, the safety and well-being of our residents and our community is our top priority. Based on the recommendations of our provincial and federal healthcare leaders, we believe these decisions are in the best interest of our community and our collective health. And it is important to note that our mayor, CAO, city directors, and councillors are meeting on a daily, regular basis. You know, sometimes councillors aren't involved in the meetings, but we're informed quite quickly after the meetings occur on what's taking place. So I guess I just want to let the city of Summerside know that you're in good hands. And there's another meeting in the morning, first thing, and if there's more decisions that have to be made, they'll be made then. So other than that, unless anyone has questions.
Thank you, Councillor Ramsey, and I'll just add a couple of things to that. I did have a good discussion Sunday morning. I got a call from the Premier, and he went over a number of things and thanked the city for following the guidelines of the Provincial Health Officer, Dr. Morrison. And I want to commend our CAO, Rob, and our Deputy CAO, Gord McFarlane, and all directors. I sat in on a meeting this morning of the directors, and they have everything in place, and everything is being done that's supposed to be done, and I commend them for that. And they're meeting quite often, as you say, but I got word yesterday that there was a meeting this morning at 9, so I was invited to sit in, and everything is in place, and we certainly commend the CAO and all staff members for the work that they're doing, so we'll continue to follow the regulations and suggestions and advice from the Provincial Health Officer, Dr. Morrison, and the Premier has been in touch with the Prime Minister. He's been in touch, or our Health Officer is in touch with the Federal Health Officer, Dr. Tam, and so everything is being done here in Summerside that's supposed to be done, and so that's all we have at this point. We thank everybody for cooperating, our citizens, and we'll get through this. We're not exactly sure when, and this is uncharted waters for all of us.
It is.
And not only for municipality, but the country and the world. And as well, in my meeting with I understand through the PEIFM, President Bruce, that somebody from EMO will be talking with, at our board meeting this week, the Federation of PEI Municipalities. But one thing that was really stressed was to make sure that we're consistent, all municipalities in the province and the feds. Because if somebody decides to go in another direction, then it just would create confusion. So this way, all municipalities on the island are cooperating with the province and the federal government and the provincial health officer and the federal health officer, and that will make it easier to get through this. And that's all I have to say at this time. We'll keep the people posted of anything that we hear from the province or the feds, but they're doing a great job of holding press conferences.
Yes, they
and
are.
I saw the Prime Minister on again today, and the province. So we'll get through this.
We will, and I'd just like to take a moment to just commend Dr. Morrison, because she is phenomenal, and she's a great leader. She's very calm, and she's very wise. So, and our Premier and our counterparts at the province, you know, thank you for that. And Brian, do you have something?
Yeah, well, you kind of alluded to it there, Councillor Ramsey. I wanted to kind of give a shout out to Dr. Morrison, and you know, I've had a couple of occasions to work with Dr. Morrison, one around the H1N1 when we did the 2009 Canada Games, because it was prevalent during that time. So she was instrumental in working with us in developing those plans. And not only Dr. Morrison, because she's the face, but she has and she'd be the
Great
first
team.
to acknowledge the tremendous team she has around her. And then secondly, in my former life was business continuity consultant for the province, and worked with Dr. Morrison around some of the planning and that type of thing. And you know, and this is a battle, and there's nobody else that I can think of that I'd want to go to battle with as my leader right now than Dr. Morrison. She's just a tremendous leader and capable person.
Yes.
And the team around her, I have to acknowledge them, because there's a tremendous team around her there too. So just want to, you know, we think we're going through a tough time and anxiety and stuff. Just imagine what they're going through. And
Trying to sort it out.
You know, I have tremendous confidence in
Yes.
that they'll get us to the other side of this thing appropriately. So.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Councillor
Brian.
McFeely. I believe Deputy Mayor McColeman, you have the floor.
I want to thank you for that update, Councillor Ramsey. The other thing that I wanted to point out too is every day on the national TV, CTV, at, I believe it's 2 o'clock, there is a national update with all of the information. And any of the handouts and the releases or whatever, I just find that they're very consistent in coming through the city. And I know every one of us are receiving Facebook and text messages from people, but I just want to assure people that Mayor and Council and our CAO and senior management are very much aware of all of the articles and releases coming out from the national, provincial, and even municipal orders of government, and we're trying to get that out to people. And sometimes people may wonder, well, why aren't you doing this, or why don't you do that, or whatever. But the fact of the matter is we're trying to base our information on science and factual information, and I think our residents also need to be aware that we all play a role in this, and things like washing our hands with hot water and soap, sanitizer, those kinds of things, we also need to do our part. But I think we're all on board to try and get through this together.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank
And Councillor Draw?
Thanks, Councillor Ramsey. And just to add on to Deputy Mayor McColeman's remarks, just want to commend management and staff and directors and everyone here for kind of moving forward and being here tonight, because there's a lot of things around the province and the city and the country and that are just being canceled and shutting down. And just want to thank everybody for acknowledging, I guess, that business has to go on in the city, and we're not going to stop, doing the things that we need to do for our residents that live here. And although we're acknowledging and dealing with all this extra stuff that seems to be tripling in its intensity every day, it's just important that we continue to do what it is that we're here to do, and kind of balance that with what's happening. So thanks everybody in City Hall and everybody that works around for the city, and everybody here. Thanks for keeping the truck rolling, I guess.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you,
So I guess that concludes my report.
Okay, I'll just add this too.
Okay, sorry.
I did get a letter, and I copied it to council, information from the national president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, President Kirsten. He is from Halifax this year. So, and we all met Mr. Kirsten, and he's very down to earth and does a great job as FCM president. And so they're reaching out to all municipalities across the country, doing whatever they can do to provide information. And we look forward to that meeting Thursday evening, I believe it is, Councillor Dougall. We're going to have it. The meeting is canceled, but we're doing it by phone. I mean, it's not canceled, but the office in Charlottetown.
Conference call.
Pardon? Yes. Yeah. Right.
And I think that's it, Mr. Mayor, is that people working with people, right? People helping each other. That's what's going to get us through this. And if that's it, then I'm
Thank
finished.
you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue on with the agenda, and we'll see, I believe, Councillor Snow, you have the floor, sir, with a report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to start just by thanking J.P. DeRozier. He compiled the report for community services. Eastlink Arena at Credit Union Place was transformed into a musical setting for the Queen musical. We Will Rock You. Over 1,300 people attended the world-renowned show and enjoyed the ageless music from Queen. The second annual Rotary Park Rundown took place at Rotary Friendship Park with over 40 participants in the race. This event and sport continues to grow and show great interest. Rotary Park was the hub for outdoor enthusiasts in the month of February, as many took advantage of the groomed trails for fat biking, snowshoeing, and walking. The week-long 55-plus games took place in mid-February with over 700 participants registered in 14 different sports and activities. The popular luncheon had over 80 in attendance at the Oval at Credit Union Place. An NHL Legends game took place as a fundraiser for the Rally for the Valley. The game featured several former NHLers such as Ray Bourque, Darren Langdon, who was a former Capital as well, and Gary Lehman, to name a few. The game saw roughly 2,000 in attendance, and they all came out in support of Tyne Valley. The Summerside Western Capitals continued their winning ways, going 4-0 at home and 3-1 on the road in February. We all know how that has since ended, unfortunately. The Aquatic Center kept busy with the public and private winter swimming lessons taking place. And lastly, the Veterans Convention Center was busy during the month of February with 17 bookings. Just in closing, I'd like to really wish Billy McGuigan and the Caps, or congratulate them, I guess, on the season they had. Like I alluded to earlier, we all know how it since ended with the cancellation of the season, but they were definitely built for a long, long run, and I personally believe a national championship, because they were a really strong team, one of the strongest ones I've seen in a long time here from Summerside. So I just really like to congratulate them on the year they had, and look forward to them getting back on the ice and everything becoming back to normal in a hurry.
Can I ask you a question while you're still on your feet there?
Yes.
And you may throw a book at me and think I'm crazy.
No.
But you suppose Hockey Canada would increase the junior age for 1 year, so every junior player in the country would be able to continue next year? Because what a sad way for them, all of them, 133 teams, I believe, in the country, to end their career by getting cut off the last week. And I'm just wondering, wouldn't it be great to see if they would do that? That way, the players who retired this year before they won the national championship, or whatever team across the country was going to win it, but I'm like you, I think ours would have won it. But I would wonder, under the circumstances, if they would consider that.
You know
Seems
what?
like a good idea, but I don't know.
It seems like a great idea for us, for sure. I don't know what the other Canadian junior teams would think of knowing that our team would be back in full force, to be honest. But, you know what, you feel really bad for those 20-year-olds that had plans of playing a little game here and there. They didn't get a chance to end it on whatever terms, either
I'm not
being
just
beaten by another team or by winning. So you really feel bad for those, and at the end of the day, it is just a hockey game, some will say, but for those young men and for a lot of people, it is their lifestyle at this point, and they love the game. So it's unfortunate the way it ended. I would be in favor of that, Your Worship, but I don't know if Hockey Canada or everybody else is
I'm
going to go
not
that
just
route.
thinking of our own team, but every team would have their
No.
20-year-olds, you know, for another year
For
to try
sure.
again. So
I
anyway,
like the idea.
I was just
Maybe we'll
thinking
make
out
a
loud.
call to Hockey Canada, see.
just thinking out loud.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you
Worship.
for your report. Is there any
Yep.
questions for the Chair of Community Services? Councillor Adams.
Thank
You
you,
have a
Your
question?
Worship. Oh, no.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry, I thought you had a question. I better.
I'm moving right along.
Okay. Okay, our Chair, Councillor Adams,
Just
is
a
the
second
Legal
here.
Affairs and Cultural Report and the Policy Review Bylaw. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I'll start with HR Legal Affairs. The Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee, as well as department subcommittees, continue to meet on a regular monthly basis. As Councillor Ramsey had mentioned earlier, we are pleased to announce that Tyler Drosh, Jeff Bernard, and our very own Justin Duran have been promoted to the rank of lieutenant within our fire service.
Which is the higher rank, lieutenant or councillor?
Right now. A process is currently underway in accepting new volunteer firefighter applications. Competition is open for a sports tourism coordinator, and congratulations to Ryan Steele. Ryan was successful in the scheduling and programming coordinator position. So Ryan was previously with us, so that's great to be able to keep him on.
That's a replacement position.
Yes, that is.
Good.
Yes, he was with us already. Staff participated in Wear Purple Day in recognition of Family Violence Prevention Week and Pink Shirt Day for anti-bullying. 2 first aid and CPR training sessions had been held for staff. Any questions on that one?
No questions, but I just would like to congratulate Justin and Tyler and Jeff. All three I would consider friends and have connections with somewheres along the way in my past. So it's sort of, we're getting to that age where we're all getting older and we're getting involved in everything. It's nice to see them getting promoted. So great.
Okay, I'll keep going with the Culture Summerside monthly report. The following report captures some highlights of Culture Summerside's activity from mid-February to mid-March time period. The programming schedule for the 64th Summerside Lobster Carnival can now be viewed at www.summersidelobstercarnival.website. And it's a little bit different at the end, the .website part. Culture Summerside is excited with the caliber of the entertainment lineup that is mainly local and maritime. Chef Robert Pendergast is back as Carnival Chef with an impressive lineup of culinary demonstrations and taste testing that will pair island lobster with other island foods in recognition of our food island. A new component for the 2020 Carnival is the offering of a lobster excursion from the Summerside waterfront. It will be aboard a Summerside Lobster Carnival branded 42-foot cruiser. Participants will have an opportunity to pull a lobster trap, learn about lobster and the industry, and enjoy lobster on board. There is already considerable off-island traffic on the website in response to the marketing. Event and accommodation packages are being developed, and one is currently for sale through a local hotel partner and as well as PI Tourism. Sponsorship efforts are ongoing. A kickoff event is in the planning stages. Applications to summer employment programs have been submitted, and wage subsidy funding is starting to be awarded. Culture Summerside delivered a very successful Mayor's Heritage Tea and Heritage and Culture Awards ceremony. It was very well attended. Summerside programming is currently being developed at all the sites. The Culture Summerside staff are working on ongoing cataloging of artifacts. This work is currently being supported through funding from the Community Museum Association of PEI. And just a little did you know at the bottom, museology is the science or practice of organizing, arranging, and managing museums. the word of the day. Museums across Canada have an established set of national standards for museum work and collections care and have a nationwide nomenclature for the naming of objects. Our City of Summerside-owned museums are managed to meet national standards. Culture Summerside staff have amassed over 116 years of experience in the fields of museum and archival work. So we're in good hands in that area. Anybody have any questions? Nomenclature? Google it. Bylaw Policy and Review Committee. In November, Council passed second readings for amendments to several bylaws in order to bring them into compliance with new Municipal Government Act. The current catalog of bylaws is now up to date in terms of consistency in formatting, references, and numbering for retrieval purposes. This work is primarily legislative housekeeping, which means that all bylaws remain subject to council review and revision for as the need arises for improving their content, language, and application. New bylaws mandated by the province. In past meetings, Council has adopted bylaws for access to information and also retention of records. Taxi bylaw. Council has directed the Bylaw and Policy Review Committee to review the current taxi bylaw and to bring recommendations back to Council. This is a response to hearing a growing number of concerns registered by taxi operators, taxi rides, and the public in general. It has been suggested that the current taxi bylaw is outdated, irrelevant in some respects, and difficult to enforce. This review process is underway, and we will be meeting with local stakeholders shortly before the revised bylaw comes back to Council. And just wanted to note that this meeting was set up, but we unfortunately, due to the circumstances out of our hands right now, getting everybody in the same room was going to be not possible. So we will, as soon as the coast is clear, we'll get right back at that. Ongoing policy work. Council has further directed BPR to review the city's travel policy, as the current version of this policy has been in place for over 15 years. The purpose of the review will be to determine whether any changes or updates are required. We will keep Council apprised of our progress. And that's
Just a question, sorry to back up a little bit there in the taxi bylaw. I'm sure I know what it means, but meeting with stakeholders shortly, meaning taxi
Yes,
owners or stand owners or both?
It was, we asked for an owner, a representative from each taxi stand
good.
to meet with us.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and one spokesperson, and so that we could all be together in the same room at the same time.
All right, so not an owner and a driver, one spokesperson from each stand. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And whichever they wanted to bring, it was up to them, but it was given to the owner to,
And that
the
meeting,
invite was to the owner.
sorry, and that meeting will be to get their information, not to advise them
Yeah.
what we're thinking about, but we'll not make that decision until after
No.
it's heard, they're heard from the
Yes.
owners and,
Yeah,
and the
we
taxi
sort of have to
stands.
find out,
right,
they all have different needs and issues that have come up with their operations, and they all do run a little bit differently, so we just wanted to get everybody in the same room to see what the
that's great.
common issues are.
Thank you. Do you have anything further at this time, Councillor Adams?
That's it.
Are there any questions? I guess that's all. We'll continue on, get my agenda here. Somebody given the electrical report, sorry? Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. Municipal, Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Your Worship.
How's you get your sweet sweeper?
I have a sweet sweeper.
Street sweeper?
I do have a report here that was done up by Director Greg Goody of Municipal Services. The catch basin and storm systems were cleared of debris in preparation of several thaw and rain events that happened this month. The benches for the downtown area of the city have been put in storage and will be repaired and placed out again in May or whenever the snow clears. The streets are starting to develop potholes from freeze and thaw events that happen at this time of year. We advise the traveling public to take care while traveling. Staff repairs potholes with coal patch at this time of the year until hot asphalt plant opens in May. If you see any potholes, please report them to 902-432-1268. Or you can email contact us at city.summerside.pe.ca. A new rag threading adapter has been installed on the major lift station pumps at the Euston and Northumberland pumps to help prevent blockages. The ultraviolet lights used for disinfection for the effluent for the sewage lagoon on North Drive were replaced this month. The following snow removal efforts were completed February 8th to March 6th. There was 9 road plowing events, 9 sidewalk events, 16 road salting events, 17 sidewalk salting events, 6 downtown clearing events, 4 fire hydrant cleaning events, and there's approximately 638 fire hydrants in the city. 5 street widening and 16 parking lot salting events. Your Worship, under the water and sewer utilities, we had 32 water samples taken and all were clear. 12 chlorination samples taken and all within parameters. We had 1 water main break that occurred on Cedar Street. 2 sewer lateral videos occurred. We had 10 water turn on and turn offs for the month, 3 sewer calls, and sewer affluent to the harbor, all within regulated parameters. There was 27,282 gallons of septage received at the plant from outlying communities. 389 tons of biofertilizer were created this month at the sewage treatment plant. And just another note on our beautiful boardwalk. I just want to shout out to the operators that are cleaning the boardwalk, and just a note for people to be careful. There's been a lot of the asphalt is heaved very badly, and especially inside past the little bridge there, but there's a lot of ups and downs, so just be careful, and the operators are doing a great job at salting and maintaining that. There's a lot of people using that, and there'll probably be a whole lot more people using it because of the facilities closed. So I just wanted to shout out to staff on doing that. That's all I have, Your Worship, for a report.
Thank you. When you were reading it there, I noticed you were talking about the potholes, and then I thought you were going to say, you said, if you see any potholes, I thought you were going to say, steer clear of them, but you didn't mention that.
Call in, we'll see if we can get them filled. Is there any questions on?
I do have a question, Bruce. I just wanted to talk for a minute about the benches that were picked up and stored, and just the communication around that. We didn't get an opportunity to let folks know that we were going to tuck them away. They were just getting damaged from the weather, and they were frozen into the ground. And anyway, the Summerside Municipal Services worked hard to get them tucked away, and they're all going to be repaired, like you said, and put back out as soon as the snow is gone and the freezing stops. And maybe next year we'd get them out a little earlier. We're hoping that if we, yeah.
No.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because there were some Facebook messages that I got regarding that, and I know that we were doing the best we could, and
Appreciate that. And I think one of the bad culprits in the situation was that ice event that we had, that everything froze. I still get ice on my patio.
I know, me too,
Yeah.
me too.
So I think that sort of.
There were many of them still
added.
intact, right?
Yeah.
Many of them still intact, but a few of them got
They'll be
some
repaired.
damage. So anyway, they'll all be back and looking pretty again as soon as possible.
Perfect.
Thank you. If I could just add to that too, and thank you, Councillor Ramsey, for bringing that up. But the city should have been out front on that and had that notified the people in downtown that they were going to be removed for snow removal purposes, and if there was any damage, they would be repaired, and that's what's going to happen. They will be repaired and placed back there in the spring, but it was too bad it happened before the people were advised of that.
Yeah.
But they will be put back, same
Okay.
good shape.
Thank you.
And just as a footnote, following on your comments about it, I believe, there was a meeting with Director DeRosier, and municipal services were also brought in on the information loop on that, and I think there's going to be maybe a little bit different kind of coordination on timing and planning things out. So I think it was a lesson learned. There were no wrong intentions on it. I think everybody was trying to help, but it was just that ice that really built up around them. So I think
Caught
next
everybody
year
up.
should see it improved a bit more.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's a good lesson for everybody. Any other questions? If not, I just have a couple of comments. First of all, I want to commend the provincial government on the way that they're handling the issue. The last couple of weeks, we're in uncharted territory, and they're doing a phenomenal job. And as Councillor McFeely said, Dr. Heather Morrison is doing a phenomenal job. Just with and as well, Your Worship, yourself, for keeping this council up to date on everything. I know that every time there's a meeting in here, or you get something from the province or the Department of Health or whatever, we're the first ones to find out about it, and that's much appreciated. And as mentioned by the mayor, the FPIM board meeting will be held on by conference call this week. I've also canceled a couple of meetings that were in person, just to be doing our own and to set an example. I think we all, this is something that we're, as I said, on charted territory, and we all got to abide by the rules and be safe. So with that, the only other thing I had was the FPIM annual meeting that is scheduled to be held in Summerside on April 27th. We'll be reviewing that later this week and probably make an announcement. So
That's a month and a half away.
yeah, so we're
sometime
hoping that everything will all be cleared up by then, but that's all we can do.
The Atlantic Mayor's meeting in Truro
Has been canceled.
canceled
yes.
this year.
Yeah. And the chamber, yes, yeah. So.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
I saw
so-
that. Yeah, the president of VACOA was going to be here. I had a meeting lined up with him
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
after the meeting here, but I can understand why it was canceled.
Yeah. Anyway, we just, we got to all work together and be safe. Together we'll get through it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. Okay, I believe Councillor Campbell is still with us, but he's on the line, but I believe his Vice Chair, or Deputy Mayor McColeman, you're going to give a report for
Yes.
Councillor Campbell on the electrical.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Your Worship. The report was prepared by Municipal Services Director Greg Goody. I'll just give you some highlights. The work task highlights for the operations building for electric utility at 94 Ottawa Street is closed for renovations and will reopen June 2020. Our main office staff is now located at 99 Harvard Street, and any customers can check in there for any information or business questions that they have with the utility. The Summerside Sunbank project has issued and awarded the environmental screening report for submissions to the province to gain approvals for construction. An open house on the project is scheduled to be available for the public input in April and to showcase the environmental screening report. The location, date, and time will be advertised on the city's website. We are now up to 423 Heat for Less Now appliances, and the crosswalk units on South Drive by Greenfield School have been replaced with new units. Engine number 2 at the fire station has had repairs and fuel injectors tested. Central Street water tower generator system was repaired. It was due to faulty automatic transfer switch that the repairs had to take place. The crosswalk lights were repaired on Small Avenue and Water Street. and the power plant hosted a field trip for our internal city staff to become familiar with power plant operations in February, and it was well attended. For the power line technicians, they attended first aid training. Our city line crews repaired several ground wires on poles throughout 5 circuits in the city. Some of them were missing. Not the line crews, but the lines. The line crews started changing out older pole mount transformers on the system, and 3 were completed this month. As well, our line crews started pole replacement efforts. 2 were completed during this month. One of our newest subdivisions, Putter's Lane, construction has been completed, and for National Flag Day, several deteriorated flags were replaced. Just some general operational statistics for the electric utility. 40% of our electricity came from wind in February. The generator run hours were 6.7 hours. There were 5 new electric customers energized this month, 2 electrical service upgrades, and 4 customer outage events for this month. And that concludes the report, and if there's any questions or comments.
Any questions for the co-chair of electrical? I do not see any questions. Yeah.
Thank you, boss.
You copied all that, Greg, Councillor Campbell? Yeah, well. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, I believe we've gotten to the end of the agenda, and I see there's an item for the Committee of the Whole. I guess if we're ready to adjourn, sorry, Councillor Drawn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to I guess, update the public on just a couple items that I'm getting a lot of messages about. Transit. We're still supposed to meet this week, pending, something, but Councillor Corey and CAO Rob and I are still, as far as I know, scheduled to have a chat about transit this week. And also, just because I know a lot of people are wondering, since our last committee meeting, first of the month, there has been some talk with regards to, they don't want me to call it the former Holland College building, but the current APM-owned building, I guess, is what we'll start calling it. There's been some chatter about that just internally and with ownership there. So just to let everybody know that it's still, with all that's going on, those 2 things are still dead ahead for us. So just wanted to update everyone on those 2 things.
Thank you. Okay, we've gotten to the end of the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Snow. All in favor? Thank you very much. We'll